People in my town used to say the old St. Margaret's Hospital was alive. Not alive in the way a building usually is, with people moving through its halls, doors swinging, lights buzzing, but alive in the way something rotten is alive, mold spreading, pipes groaning, silence breathing in the corners. And they said the last patient never left. Everyone had their own version of the story. A cancer patient chained to his bed when the city shut the place down. A man in a coma who woke to find himself alone. A violent patient who refused to leave. Depending on who you asked, he died in there, or didn't. Some swore if you walked the halls after midnight, you'd hear him dragging his four-pole, the wheels squealing across cracked tile. Others claimed you could see him staring from the upper windows, hollow-eyed, waiting. I never really believed it, at least not until the night we went inside. There were 4 of us. Ryan, of course, was the one who started it. He always did. He lived for dares, for stunts, for being the first to laugh when someone else backed down. He was the kid who'd scale water towers just to leave his initials in spray paint, who climbed fences to sit on rooftops and smoke. Now, in his 20s, he hadn't grown out of it. He thrived on fear, not his own, but other people's. Lily was his girlfriend, and she was the opposite. Careful, practical, the one who carried extra cash in her shoe and a multi-tool on her keychain. She hated these late-night trips, but she hated letting Ryan go alone even more. Half the time I thought she only came to keep him from doing something stupid enough to land him in the ER. She kept a first aid kit in her backpack, which told you everything about her priorities. Marcus was our joker, loud, restless, allergic to silence. He'd been Ryan's friend since grade school, and even when he complained about these ideas, you could see he loved them too. He cracked jokes at the worst possible times, funerals, classrooms, moments where you weren't supposed to laugh. For him, exploring abandoned places was just another stage, another chance to get a rise out of people. And then there was me, the observer, the follower. I wasn't the one who came up with the ideas, or kept people safe, or made them laugh. I was the one who went along because saying no meant being left behind, and missing out terrified me more than any ghost story ever could. So when Ryan leaned across the diner table one Friday night, smirk tugging at his mouth, and said, "Let's hit St. Margaret's tomorrow," I didn't roll my eyes or make excuses. I laughed with Marcus, listened to Lily sigh, and said the same thing I always said. Sure, why not? Even though I knew exactly why not. We met at Ryan's place just before midnight. He tossed flashlights into a backpack, checked the batteries, loaded water bottles and an old camcorder he borrowed from his brother. Lily packed her kit, bandages, sanitizer, pepper spray, and slipped it in with her hoodie. Marcus carried snacks, because of course he did. And me? I brought my phone, fully charged, even though I already knew service wouldn't reach that far out. The drive took half an hour. Town lights faded behind us, replaced by long stretches of trees, road signs half hidden in weeds, the occasional farmhouse with one light burning in the distance. Conversation was easy at first, Ryan teasing Marcus about a girl he'd struck out with, Marcus deflecting with bad jokes, Lily telling us we were idiots for doing this. But the closer we got, the quieter it became. The hospital loomed out of the dark like something dug up instead of built. 3 stories tall, windows shattered, roofline sagging. The brick was stained with years of weather, vines clawing up its sides. The parking lot was cracked, weeds pushing through fissures. A single leaning streetlight flickered weakly, casting shadows that bent too far across the asphalt. None of us moved at first. Finally, Ryan laughed, too loud, trying to break the spell. "Come on," he said, "don't chicken out now." He was already out of the car before the rest of us answered. The side entrance gaped open, plywood long since torn away. The smell hit as soon as we stepped inside, damp plaster, mildew, rust, and something sour that clung to the back of my throat. Our flashlights cut thin beams across walls scabbed with graffiti and peeling paint. Every sound seemed magnified, the crunch of broken glass under our shoes, the hiss of air through cracks in the windows, the faint drip of water echoing down halls. "Creepy," Marcus muttered, grinning like he didn't mean it. He swept his light dramatically across a doorway. "Doctor will see you now." Lily elbowed him hard enough to make him grunt. "Shut up." Ryan's camera was already rolling. "This is it," he whispered into the lens. "The legendary St. Margaret's. If you hear a ghost, scream for the viewers." I rolled my eyes but said nothing. My chest already felt tight. We started in the old reception area. Desks toppled, chairs overturned, paper scattered across the floor like snow. In one corner, a rotary phone still sat on its cradle, cord dangling. The walls were lined with faded posters, hygiene reminders, fire exits, a chart of human anatomy curled and yellowed. Lily scanned the shadows nervously. "We shouldn't go too deep. This place is probably full of asbestos." Ryan grinned. "Don't worry, babe. If we start coughing up blood, Marcus can film it." Marcus saluted with his flashlight. "I'll even get your good side." The laughter that followed was thin, nervous, eaten quickly by the silence. The further we went, the colder it got. I saw my breath once, faint mist in the beam of my light, and blinked hard. It was early spring. It shouldn't have been cold enough for that. That's when I heard it. A sound. Faint, distant, a scrape. Not the scuttle of rats. Not the drip of water. Something heavier. Metal against tile. I froze. "Did you guys hear that?" Ryan frowned. "Old pipes?" But I knew pipes didn't move like that. We pressed on, slower now. The hall stretched too long, every door a dark mouth gaping into shadow. Some were ripped from their hinges, others closed tight, paint bubbled from damp. Marcus found a wheelchair tipped on its side. He nudged it with his foot, and one wheel spun lazily, squeaking. The sound echoed, bouncing down the hall until it felt like it came from everywhere. Lily hissed, "Don't touch anything." Ryan laughed, but softer now. "Relax, it's just junk." The scrape came again. Louder. We stopped. Flashlights swung wildly, beams stabbing at empty walls. Silence. Then, 3 knocks, slow, deliberate, against the wall. Lily's hand tightened on Ryan's arm. "Someone's here." Ryan shook his head. "Wind, loose plaster." But none of us believed him. We stood there listening to our own breathing like it belonged to someone else. My light shook in my hand. The old paint along the corridor looked like reptile skin, sheeted and curled, and I couldn't shake the feeling the building was molting around us. Ryan whispered, "Hello?" into the dark like he expected manners back. Nothing answered. The quiet pressed in again, a weight more than a sound. He started forward because of course he did. Lily didn't let go of his arm. She just let herself be pulled with him, jaw clenched, the metal zipper pulled on her hoodie ticking softly against her backpack strap. Marcus muttered, "If a ghost shows up, I'm charging admission," and tried to laugh, but it broke into 2 pieces before it left his mouth. We moved past exam rooms that looked ransacked by time. Lamps toppled, clipboards splayed in damp piles, charts fused to floors with mold. In one, a calendar still hung on a thumbtack, the curled page insisting it was June 20 years ago. I paused, staring, because some dates don't like being told they're over. The scrape came again, longer this time. Metal dragged in a lazy arc. It wasn't everywhere now. It had a direction. Ryan lifted the camcorder like a shield and whispered into it. "Second floor, north wing. We're hearing something." The red light on the cam's body blinked like a cautious heartbeat. We reached a junction. Left, the sign stenciled on the wall pointed to surgery and recovery. Right, a child's hand-painted mural half-eaten by mold led toward pediatrics. The cartoon sun had peeled so that its smile looked like a wound. Lily said, "Not the kids' ward," without looking at any of us. Ryan said, "Surgery first," like he'd chosen a restaurant. Left was worse. The temperature dropped enough that our breaths ghosted in the air steadily now. Doors had thick glass windows in them, all crazed with spiderweb cracks. In one operating room, we found an overhead light hanging at a tilt, its arm frozen mid-swing. The stainless table beneath it was streaked with rust, but the straps were still bolted to the sides. Marcus touched one with a knuckle and jerked back like it had shocked him. "Nope," he said softly to the room to himself. On a rolling tray, a cracked plastic mask, tubing that trailed away to nowhere, a metal bowl with a concentric stain like a dried galaxy. Our lights made everything shine like wet teeth. I turned mine away and still felt the gleam on my skin. We didn't talk much after that. The sound of the scrape returned, irregular now. Close, then receding, like someone testing how far a leash would allow. When it faded, we all held still, counting in our heads without agreeing to. 1, 2, 3, and then the sound would return and the numbers would scatter. We found the record's room by accident. The door had been forced open years ago, the frame bent, and inside the air had its own taste, like old books and rainwater. Shelves lay toppled, the floor buried in manila folders that had burst open, papers swollen and soft at the edges. Names peered up through dirt, diagnoses, dates. Lily crouched and touched one with 2 fingers like a rosary. "These should have been stored," she said. "Not to us, to the universe that misfiled everything. They shouldn't be here." Ryan filmed her hand, the page, the mess. "It's history," he said, as if the word excused trespass. Lily stood and wiped her fingers on her jeans like the ink could stain more than fabric. From deeper in, someone coughed. We froze. It was small, human, close, not the building. We all looked at one another because none of us wanted to be the first to shape the word with our mouths. Marcus said it anyway. "Hello?" But it came out thin and boyish. Silence again, patient as a doctor behind a door. Ryan flicked his light toward the hall. "We're not alone," he whispered into the camera. It wasn't bravado now, it was inventory. I felt my body tighten without my opinion. We followed the cough the way you follow a smell into a kitchen. Down another corridor where ceiling panels sagged like damp tongues. Past the wall where someone had spray painted a huge childish heart, and then, years later or 5 minutes, someone else had X'd it out. The scrape was waiting for us when we found the end of the hall, like we were late and it had been bored. The door that closed itself earlier stood there again, looking like every other door. It was closed. The paint around the handle was polished by 1,000 anxious hands. There was a small rectangular window set at face height. It was opaque with grime. I didn't want Ryan to touch it. I didn't want to see him reflected. He reached for the knob. "Ryan," Lily said. She didn't pack anything into the syllables except all the years she'd said his name. He looked at her and then at the camera. The red light blinked, patient. He turned the knob. The room inside was small, square, as if space had been economized from the idea of a room. The bed frame bolted to the floor looked like a trap without a trapper. The springs reached up like wire fingers. The wall above the headboard had been scraped raw. We all stepped in with our lights crowding each other and saw it together. Still here. Not a spray, not a marker. Gouged into plaster, letters as deep as a knuckle is wide. The dust from the carving was drifted at the baseboard as if breath hadn't yet had time to carry it away. The grooves were uneven, hacked at, done by someone impatient with the idea of words at all and using them anyway. If the building could have grinned, this would have been its mouth. Lily backed out first, light shaking so hard it drew tremors across the dim. Marcus said, "Okay, okay, okay," a few times in a voice that sounded like he was trying to get a dog to drop a shoe. Ryan filmed, like he didn't know how not to. I stood there an extra second because I wanted the phrase to mean anything other than what it said. Then the sound arrived steady and unshy. The scrape, the squat little squeal of a wheel that doesn't spin right, then the stutter of it hitting a crack in tile, then the resumed drag. Not fast, coming toward us as if it had only ever intended to. Not from the hall we'd come down, from the one we hadn't yet explored. We didn't plan to run, we simply became running. The corridor took us like a throat. Ryan led because momentum picked him up and carried him. Lily didn't scream. She made a small, horrific noise like a broken music box winding itself alone. Marcus kept saying, "Nope, nope," as if the word were a charm. I risked one look back and saw nothing but the end of our light's reach. The sound stayed a fixed distance behind, as if it was practicing restraint. At the stairwell we balked because the darkness below felt like someone's mouth opened for a spoon. "Down," Ryan said, and started anyway. The handrail's rust left a smear on my palm. The smell was metallic and real. The scrape followed, but didn't escalate. No hurried clatter, just that same inexorable dragging, like it was confident we had nowhere to go that it didn't already own. On the first floor, signs led toward pediatrics no matter which way we turned. The mural we'd avoided earlier greeted us again, wine-torn, its cartoon animals reduced to shapes with eyes. We shoved through double doors whose little windows had been punched out years ago. Inside, color tried to have survived. Faded borders with balloons, a strip of wallpaper with giraffes long gone gray. But rot had won. Tiny beds with guardrails sat in rows like teeth. A mobile still hung from a ceiling hook, its paper stars drooped and furred with fungus. My light found a small sneaker beneath a crib, the laces fossilized into shape. "Please," Lily said breathless, "to all of us, or the building, or God. We have to leave, now." Ryan didn't argue, which scared me more than if he had. He swung the camcorder to the hall to prove to the tape that we were, in fact, retreating. The scrape answered from the other side of the pediatric ward, not hurrying, not slowing, but somehow nearer. We threaded through the playroom, tiny chairs overturned, a faded mural of a rainbow that had run in the damp until all its colors were brown, and slipped out a service door into a narrower service corridor. Pipes ran along the ceiling here, sweating, condensation dripped at intervals, rhythmic as a clock someone had misplaced. The drops hit the concrete with soft clicks. Between the clicks, we could hear our own feet scuffing, the shallow saw of our breath, and behind that, like a second heartbeat, wheel squeal, drag. Wheel squeal, drag. "This way," Marcus panted, and we followed his flashlight to a door cracked open to a courtyard. The night air beyond was a different temperature, honest, clean compared to the breath of the building. Relief stuttered through me so sharply it almost hurt. Ryan shouldered the door wider. It didn't open. It gave an inch and then hit resistance, as if something heavy leaned against it from the other side. Ryan set the camcorder between his teeth and put both hands on the push bar. The metal groaned. The door shuddered in its frame but stayed nearly closed. Lily shoved her shoulder in beside his and pushed, eyes squeezed shut like she could move it with denial. I grabbed above the bar and added whatever I am to the weight. Marcus put his back into it and cursed in a steady stream. The door shifted another inch. Cold night leaked around it like a promise. The scrape was unbothered by our effort. Wheel squeal, drag. It turned a corner behind us and became a line in the air, connecting there to here. I didn't turn to look. My body refused the idea of giving my face to the sound. The door jumped forward a half foot in a sudden give. We spilled into the courtyard like marbles out of a jar, hands and knees on wet concrete. The air was open and unapologetic. Stars existed again. I couldn't hear my heartbeat until I noticed I could. The door swung back immediately on the closer, settling toward shut with a slow hydraulic sigh. Ryan scrambled and shoved a cracked patio paver into the bottom corner as a wedge. The door settled against it and stopped. We looked at one another with the bright, stupid faces of newborns. Ryan whispered, "Okay," like a man who has convinced himself language can organize reality. Lily started crying quietly. No sobs, just water leaving someone who'd been wrung. Marcus laughed once in a breathless, ugly way and wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. We listened. For a moment, there was nothing but outside. Insect chorus, a branch, wind like silk. Then, very softly through the seam of the door, the sound continued because what is a door in the story of a sound? Wheel squeal, drag. We crossed the courtyard as a cluster, not looking over our shoulders, not separating. The building on the far side had an exterior stair down to a delivery bay. The metal steps rang under us in uneven notes. The bay opened to the side lot, a stretch of cracked asphalt and our path back around toward the front. We didn't run, not the panicked sprint of prey. We moved fast because speed is a spell, but we forced our steps to stay quiet, as if the sound could learn us by rhythm. At the corner, we had to pass beneath a row of lit second-floor windows. Lit. We stopped so abruptly we collided. Second-floor windows should not have been lit. The power had died decades ago. But there they were, 3 rectangles pale with a glow that wasn't bright exactly, but sufficient. In each, something moved. Not shapes exactly. The way light moves when someone passes in front of it, interrupting. Shadows with opinions. "Keep walking," Lily said, so evenly it rearranged all my molecules. We kept walking. The lights did not flicker off. The shadows did not wave. They simply continued doing whatever people do when they are behind glass and you are outside. At the front, the boards on the main door looked newer than the torn ones at the side. Someone had taken the time to seal this and given the building one less mouth. The lot felt enormous. Ryan's car sat where we left it, looking like mercy. We got in the way people get into houses during a storm. The door slammed too loud. The locks sang their simple assurances. No one spoke until the engine coughed and then smoothed. The headlights dragged 2 spears of light across the brick. For a second, our beams caught a window and gave us back our own light, and in the reflection my face had the flatness of a person seen on tape. I wanted to tell future me to turn away. Ryan put the car in gear. We rolled. The street light flickered, did not die. The building didn't shrink in the rear view. Perspective forgot its job for a moment, and then finally distance agreed to work again. No one said a thing for 5 minutes. Then Marcus whispered, "Did we get it? On the camera?" Ryan nodded without taking his eyes off the road. Lily said, "Don't watch it," so softly that I almost pretended I hadn't heard, and then louder, "Don't watch it tonight." We listened. We didn't. We went to a diner because that is what living people do after almost not. We ordered pancakes we didn't taste and eggs that sweated on plates and coffee that our shaken hands spilled in dots around the mugs. A server asked if we were coming from a party. No one answered. We stared at the stainless creamer and its small universe of reflections and waited for our voices to come back. They didn't that night. In the weeks after, we pretended not to talk about it. Ryan sent one text the next morning. Wild lull because language sometimes requires you to reduce the size of a thing to fit in your mouth. Lily wrote back a thumb up emoji and then didn't text again for 2 days. Marcus sent a meme that didn't make sense. I typed and deleted so many sentences my phone should have blistered. We agreed to meet and watch the footage a week later. We didn't make it 10 minutes. The camera showed our lights, too bright, our faces, too pale, and the hallways made out of night. It heard the scrape better than we had, clean and seated in the middle of the audio like a metronome. When we reached the record room scene, the microphone picked up the cough and I saw all our shoulders go high, small animals listening. In the still here room, the tape went slightly grainy, like dust had gotten into pixels. The letters looked deeper on screen than they had in my eyes. When the sound turned the corner toward us, the camera's autofocus hunted for a face that wouldn't arrive, breathing in the image like it could pull it closer with lungs. We stopped the tape. We ejected it. We put it back in its case with the politeness you give to something that could bite. Ryan said, "Later," meaning never. Lily said, "We should destroy it," and no one argued, and yet no one reached for a lighter. We set it on a high shelf like you do with poison you plan to keep. We didn't go explore again for a long time after that. Ryan found new dares that kept his feet on roofs we could see from sidewalks. Marcus started leaving early when ideas got big. Lily asked to meet during daylight and in crowded places. I said yes to fewer things and found that my fear of missing out had a cousin, the fear of not returning. Months turned into a year. We drifted the way people do who have shared a crisis, close for a while, then thinned into weather. When we did meet, we told the story wrong on purpose, how the wheelchair rolled itself, how a hand slid under a door, how a voice said, "Get out." We traded versions like children trade cards, each more untrue and easier to carry. We didn't mention the parts that were real, the way light looked on windows that shouldn't have shone, the relief of air in a courtyard that we might not have reached, the steady, patient rhythm of a sound that never even had to hurry.